The last step is to clean up these keys by hand. So far in the post gluing, we've trimmed everything and it's rough. It's really rough. This line is not, perfectly straight, which we're going to clean that up. This notch, it is 90 degrees, but if you look really, really closely at just this very tip of the notch, there's a little bit of a nub right in there. So I want to remove that, which do you see files anywhere? Metal file? We can try to do it with the... Okay. Well, let's just start with. I always like to do this sitting down, and my knee is my workspace. I think that works best. Oh, we can try that. Okay, to clean up that nub, I'm just going to be really, really delicate because we want to avoid going in too far. Hey Jake, would you mind grabbing a? I am more comfortable with a metal file with the. Would you mind grabbing one? I'm surprised we don't have one up here. All right. In the meantime, we can straighten this out. So, I have it. I don't have it perfectly parallel touching the wood. I have it lifted ever so slightly in that direction so that I'm really just getting the plastic and not getting the wood. When you start getting wood, stop. You've gone too far. Or that's your signal to stop. Okay, another thing is you don't want to just do one section. You don't want to do this section until it's flush with the wood and then move on to this section and then move on to this section. You want to do the whole thing kind of all simultaneously. And I also like to kind of change angles, and that just seems to finish the best results. Thanks, Jake. Okay. Now, if you recall from just a minute ago, it was really rough from the router, and it even looked a little bit wavy. But just with a little bit of fairly gentle sanding, we've got that looking quite straight, and we've got it flush with the wood, and yeah, looking much better. I see a little bit of a divot right there. You see that right there? Is it coming through on the camera?
Slightly.
Okay.
Hard to see.
It is a little bit. Okay. So it's fairly minor, but there's two things that I see. I see a little divot here, and I also see this notch. It kind of goes like that. It's not like perfectly 90 degrees, like straight down and then straight across 90. So I'm gonna kind of work that section a little bit, and then I'll use this. Yeah, let's try this file. This file has been altered. This is a rough, file edge here, whereas this has been sanded down and polished so that this does not cut, which is what we want. Otherwise, if we're going into the corner like that, if it's on the rough side, it'll start cutting into this edge, which is not what we want. We only want to restrict our cutting to that side. So I'll make sure I've got my polished side facing in. And here again, I've got my angle ever so slightly lifted up, so I'm not taking off any wood, I'm just taking off plastic. Now, again, a more amateur, less experienced notch, it'll go in, or it'll go straight, and then it'll either kind of curve out where the notch starts, or it'll curve in. We just want that to be perfectly straight and then perfectly 90 degrees. So to get at that, you know, you don't want to angle it in like that or come up. You want to just keep that file nice and straight and flush. And I'm kind of feathering it out. I don't want to just hang out in one spot. That's also an important key. If you hang out in one spot, like if I just stay right here, on this side, a little notch will form, a little cut. So I'm going to change angles, keep coming back to my little notch there, make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, that's looking pretty good. The only thing that I see now is I just see a little tiny bit on this edge here. So I'm going to now put the non-cutting side against there, and I'm just going to make sure that that's 90 degrees and not angled down like that or up like that. And I'm just going to kind of clean up that. And that's all that takes, just to clean up that little nub. Okay? Okay, have a look at that. Now, the only thing left, at least for that notch side, is we're gonna cut the top edge a little bit. Okay. Because right now this top edge is relatively sharp. So I'm not going to round it up here. This I'm gonna file down, and we're going to round that a little bit more to maybe about 45 degrees. This we're just going to cut the edge so it's not sharp on the tail of the key. So here again, I'm going to make sure that the non-cutting side is facing the notch. And I'm just going to kind of start at about 45 or so. And that cleaned up that edge nicely. Okay. Then for this little bits of glue. Do you have some steel wool? Let's try some steel wool on that glue. This we don't need to file because when it was glued really, really well with a really good eye for detail. That's nice and flush, and you can't avoid getting a little bit of glue. You do want to, have a little wet paper towel to clean that off if possible, but if there's a little bit that's not, that's just fine. So here I am kind of going into the wood ever so slightly. That's a kind of a no-no, but I don't know. It's slight enough, and it's for a good cause, getting that glue off of there. So I think we're good. Okay, that's all that took. Now we've got nice smooth edges there without glue, without any gobs of glue. Maybe a little more. And that does matter. if there's a smooth edge. You'll notice as you play the piano, when that key is depressed, if there's gobs of glue on the neighbor, you'll feel it. Yeah, and it's obnoxious. Okay, so right now we have this edge is finished, this edge is finished. So we're just missing that one. So let's, again, I'm going to use my knee as the little workstation. Keep your angle, you know, slightly away from the wood. Keep it moving. I can't emphasize that enough. Do not, I know I said this a minute ago, but I'll just emphasize it. Do not just try to get one area and move on to the next and move on to the next. Just get the whole thing all at once. Your results will be much, much better. Okay, we're getting a little bit of sawdust there, so we're going to stop. And that's good. That looks really nice. Okay. And that edge is pretty good. Maybe we can round it off just a little bit more. I find that doing it this way, having the key go up to a 45 or so, as opposed to having the key stable and trying to round it off with the sandpaper. I just find that this is just going straight with the sanding paddle and moving the key. It just gives nice results. I'm not putting very much pressure on it. Okay, that's nice and rounded. That looks good. Feels good all the way around. That notch is nice and straight. We don't have any nubs in the corner. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's check. We're going to check this. Make sure that this roundedness is the same as that roundedness, which it is. If we wanted to be really picky, maybe this one could be a little bit more rounded, which actually makes sense because this one we took down a little bit. So this is maybe ever so slightly less rounded than that one. I mean, it is just a hair. Okay, that is not something that any customer would ever notice, but just for the sake of the video and training, we'll point it out and we'll fix it. When it's really bad, when you've taken a lot off of one side, you'll have the rounded side that you haven't touched, that's original plastic, but then this side will be like square and sharp, and that will be really bad. Okay, so here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move the key this direction. Okay, I'm just going to do my sanding the same, just back and forth this way, and move my key. So I'm going to start parallel to the front. And give it, I don't know, 2 or 3 passes. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I was pretty happy with it already, but I mean, maybe that's just a little bit better, a little bit more uniform. Okay, the last one is the area that really doesn't matter, and that's the bottom. I mean, that's covered by the key slip, but look, we've got, from that router, we've got a notch taken out. May as well, right? May as well just clean that up a little bit. Okay, I'm getting into the wood, so I'm there. It's still pretty ugly, but it's all right. It's at least flush. Okay. And then, okay, I think we're there with this key. We've got rounded sides, we've got a nice notch, we've got straight lines, we've got parallel. Everything is flush. We haven't taken wood off, or at least the amount of wood that we've taken off is absolutely minute. Rounded, let's see, rounded sides. What am I missing? That's basically a finished key. I guess the last thing, if we wanted to, a lot of times in gluing, it's very difficult to not get some glue onto the key surface. So the last thing that you could do is you could buff. This one has no glue on it. But let's buff it anyway, just for the sake of the video. You found one that has glue on it? Oh, on the sides. Oh, the sides will be cleaned up with steel wool. But I'm talking about buffing on the cotton wheel. And this is a slow buffer. You want to be sure to use this slow one, because the faster buffer, it will burn the plastic. It'll melt it. So this is a half speed, I think. Yeah, low speed. So let's just put a little bit of compound on there. Hold tight. Focus your buffing in this kind of lower. You want to be definitely below the half point and kind of under there. That's where you want to, and just be sure to keep your finger under there, just to help avoid the buffer from grabbing it and kind of pulling it under. And you can do it pretty softly. Mostly it's it's the cotton and the buffing compound that's going to do the work. Okay, let's get that in the light there. Cleaned it up nicely, and we can just hit the front. I'm going to avoid the lip on the buffer, except for that much. Okay, just that'll just clean up that lip, give it a nice finished look. If you go any more than that, the lip can get kind of askew, cause kind of visual problems with the lip. So when I do the front, I'm gonna keep my angle kind of up like that. If it comes down like that, it's more likely that the buffer will grab it and pull it under. So I'm gonna keep my lip to the side, on this side, and then on this side of the wheel over here. So just kind of clean that up a little bit, that lower half, and now I'm going to do the lower half there, and that got a little compound on there. Now that key front should be good. Okay. Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay. That's a finished key.